is Tarot by the Tree. We are on the finale now of our 2x2 study series, where we look at each card of the major arcana and compare it to another one. Today we are doing the 2 journeys of the Fool, and that will review all the cards in the major arcana, and it will set up a framework for us when we study the minor arcana as well. Over the last few weeks, we have studied each of the major arcana cards in pairs. For each tarot card on the Tree of Life, there is a corresponding card on the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil. And for today, and you've seen this before, we have the Tree of Life, and then we have what is essentially the same tree as the Tree of Knowledge. As the cards are laid on the 2 trees, the meanings of the cards become clear, and through the relationships, you can see the differences between the 2 spheres. The Tree of Life is the first journey, and it introduces the structure of the Kabbalistic tree, which is comprised of 10 circles or spheres called the 10 Sephira. The Tree of Knowledge describes the same tree and the same 10 Sephira, but shows them in a different light. Legend has it that the Tree of Life was studied by younger students so they could grasp the concepts, the Kabbalistic concepts of their practical wisdom. The Tree of Knowledge was studied by students in their maturity. The reason for this is that the Tree of Knowledge can be misinterpreted if not properly understood, and it takes the learning of the first tree to be able to understand the nuances of the second. I think that people study the tarot cards for 2 reasons. The first is to gain wisdom from a source that is historic. The second reason is to be able to use the cards to tell fortunes. If someone wanted to learn the meaning of the 78 tarot cards, I would first show them what we're going to go through today, the 2 journeys of the Fool. And we're going to go through both of those. By learning these 2 journeys, you will understand all of the 22 cards of the major arcana, and by extension, the numbers and ranks of the 56 minor arcana are also explained through this system. So let's begin. We're starting with the Fool, the only unnumbered card, and this is our journey person. This is our adventurer. This is a person who is relatively young, is not somebody you would call really knowledgeable or wise at this stage. This is a good person. They just don't have a lot of life experience right now. We're going to go through the first 10 cards of the tarot deck on the Tree of Life. And the Fool, rather than the path of creation going from 1 to 10, we're looking now at the Fool's journey, and that's the path of ascension. So we're actually, the creation has made the tree starting at 1 going down to 10. 10 is our earth where we creatures live. This is the story of one creature, the Fool, who climbs out of the relative darkness and depths of our world up to the brighter light and wisdom of the higher realms. The Fool starts his journey in Malkuth. In the beginning, we can see that Malkuth is comprised of some animals in the 4 corners. They sort of emanate out of the clouds. The animals read books and have wings. And there's the idea that as a youth, in relative innocence, what the Fool doesn't know, he imagines or he assumes. And that's where he is now. He's young, he's not very knowledgeable, he's on an adventure, he's on a quest, and he begins on that Sephra. He enjoys the world for what it is. It used to be said the world made up of 4 parts: earth, water, fire, and air. He enjoys the world for what he can understand. At this stage, he is not fearful. He hasn't been hurt badly. He's still optimistic. He has said, I am going to look at this world and I'm going to try to find out some truth in it. And this begins the fool's journey. The fool starts moving and he sees a glimmer. And that glimmer of light motivates him to move toward it. And he sees this light as another way of looking at things that make sense to him. This is the beginning of the fool learning and maturing. And he thinks, I will follow this light. This is the hermit, and I will follow this person and see where it leads, to see where it takes me. On the first stop, the fool is now moved from our world to a glimmer of light held by the hermit, and he is then guided to strength. This is the Sephra Hod, and this is where the fool first begins his labors. He's moved out of our world. He sought out the guidance of the hermit and the lamp, and he finds himself now in a place where strength is required. And what he doesn't have in terms of strength, he will be taught how to develop it in himself. This is a crucial card. This does not mean actually creating a better you, as it is learning to do without. This is on the left side, the side of severity, and that is the side of restriction. As the fool moves into this area, he has to learn to do without. He has to learn that meals won't always be his favorite foods. He has to learn that work won't come at convenient times. He will learn some of the values of stress and labor and some of the challenges and rewards that go along with that. And this is where the fool stays for some time, doing without, gaining strength in the sense of that Spartan strength that emerges when you don't have luxuries. The fool emerges from that stronger. His mind is keen, and now his body is too. And together, he morphs into the Chariot. The Chariot is a card of connection. It is the card of the intellect and the imagination working together. We achieve a synergy, and the charioteer is resplendent, mighty. He's a traveler. He has wisdom and strength. And the journey now accelerates. As the fool is moving up, he's become strong and he's become balanced. And that takes the fool into the 6th Sephra, which is the Lovers. The fool now is strong. He's balanced. His intellect and his emotions work together, and he finds love. And he discovers that love is the attractant force of the universe. It's just named differently in humans. And in this place, he learns the value of love as being the thing of most importance in the world. So far, the fool's moved out of our world, found a glimmer, learned to be strong, learned to be balanced, and fallen in love. His education, his tempering, so to speak, continues as the fool moves in to the Hierophant. And the Hierophant is the teacher of ancient wisdom and knowledge. These are the things that were first encoded in the temples. These are the wisdom of our grandparents that instead of being lost is somehow tabulated and kept and taught to the chosen few. And that's what this card represents. And the fool in this place learn some of the wisdom of the ages, some of the past ideas that have helped his forefathers survive. The Fool is strong, he's balanced, he knows the value of love, the importance of that, and from there he has studied and he learned some of the mysteries. He emerges now into the sphere of Hesed. This is the benevolent king. It is on the side of mercy. Rather than restriction, everything's allowed. Come on in. This is what the king is. The king is adored by people, brings people together, unifies rivals under his command because of the respect that he has, and that respect is based on the successes that he has had. As the Fool moves up now, he reaches the upper triad of the tree of life, and he moves into the Sephra of Bina. This is sometimes called the Universal Mother. This is where energies are transformed, not just into things, but into life forms as well. This is the magic of change that we don't quite understand, but this is the way that we proliferate on the planet. As the Fool nears the top, he approaches the number 2, the High Priestess. The High Priestess is where unity becomes duality. Before the High Priestess, there wasn't a pillar of severity and a pillar of mercy. Things weren't as distinct. They were jumbled up. It just emerged from the realm of ideas, and everything is present here. Everything from bad bacteria to germs to gold and diamonds. It's all there. It's not relegated. There's no price put on any of this. It's just everything becoming manifest all at once. This is also the beginning of sexuality, the polarity of the male and female essences. Before that, there was unity and everything was the same. This is the split that put things into their separate arenas. Finally, the Fool has climbed to the top of the tree of life and enters the presence of the magician. On his table, you can see the magician has everything. That's all 4 suits: swords, staffs, coins, and cups. Everything is there. Everything that has ever been made or created or will be created is in the essence of the magician. One thing that we have to know, though, the magician doesn't actually make stuff. He makes the ideas that stuff comes from. And in this way, the Fool has just completed the first journey all the way from Malkuth, or the Wheel of Fortune, up to Keter and the magician. This is the way it would be taught if you were going to start teaching some of the practical wisdom of Kabbalah to children, to young people. This system explains what the tree of life is and what the various areas on the tree of life represent. On its own, this gives us a system, and in fact, this system is considered to be a template. It is on one hand like a molecule, on the other hand it's like a constellation. This is the pattern that everything in our world is built on. The Fool has completed his journey. He's gained strength, wisdom, balance. He's had to deal with people respecting and even adoring him now, and he has learned some of the secrets of the ages. The Fool can rest. He returns home, and he enjoys his wisdom. He makes changes to his life based on his experience. And his world is better for that experience. The knowledge and wisdom he achieved by knowing the tree of life works daily in his own personal life. In time, the fool decides to embark on a second journey. It's this second journey that is not recommended for young people, not because it's terrible, but it's just, it will mix them up, it will confuse them if they don't have the foundation first. We'll see the fool now move up the tree of knowledge. To him, he is traversing the same steps he's already taken. He will be visiting the same people and places he's already visited. But there's been a change. They're still the same, but there's been a change in his perception of them. The places and people he meets on his second journey show him a side of themselves that he might not have realized before. Before we do commence with this, we have the Justice card. The Justice card, card number 11, our logo represents card number 11 and the two trees suspended. Justice, a set of scales from which hang the two trees. They hang level. They are equal, they're congruent. But some differences may be apprehended as you move through, and you realize they aren't really differences at all. They're the same thing you knew before, but you see it now in a different light. So we'll begin. In a reading, when you draw the Justice card, you remind the aspirant that the sum total of their actions are going to be visited upon them. This could be a punishment or a reward. Justice will be served. In a reading, I would ask that another card be drawn and laid over justice so we can see what area of your life justice will be applied. That's how we use the Justice card. It's the only card that when drawn as part of a spread, a second card will be drawn to sort of pinpoint where this aspect of justice will be applied. The fool begins his journey. You remember on the last journey on the tree of life, he began with a card that has a circle in the center, 4 creatures in the corners coming out of the clouds. Feels very familiar now on his second journey. The same 4 beasts are in the same 4 corners. There's still the clouds and there's a circle in the middle. But there's a difference now. He sees the creatures the way they really are. They don't have wings. Many of them don't read books. He sees it without imagination and without assumption. The first tree has given him life experience, and he's able to apply that on the second tree, where things don't confuse him as much. It's very interesting to me that the 2 trees start with 2 cards that are symbolically similar to each other and visually similar to each other. You'll notice now on the second trip, the fool doesn't seem bestial. There aren't imaginary creatures like the Sphinx and the others. And around the central figure, around the fool, who is naked, which is suggesting the innocence of the fool, is a laurel wreath. And we've seen that wreath before as a sign of past accomplishments. The fool is not starting this second adventure as blindly as he did the first. He has a lot of knowledge and expertise under his belt now, and it's going to ease his travels. Okay, as the fool moves up, on the first journey, he encountered the wizard. Not the wizard, the hermit. And the hermit had a star and a lantern that cast a faint light, a glimmer, that the Fool was able to follow up on, and from there it led him to become stronger and better balanced. But the Fool felt he was special, or he had discovered something special, because the Hermit is a relatively hidden figure. But despite that, the Fool was able to make the discernment and to follow up on the guidance of the Hermit. On his second trip, expecting to see the Hermit, he sees instead the card Judgment. This is the card of awakening. This is sort of an all call. That clarion sound of the trumpet is reaching everyone. There is a human transformation happening, almost a form of evolution, as we all come to the realization of what's important in life. And we have already looked at love as one of the central components. And in this card, it's not just the Fool that's hearing this whispered message to try to find something more important. Everybody is being given that message. And in a sense, the Fool is humbled. What he thought was a secret message intended only for himself, it now turns out that this is an all call, and everybody will be hearing the same message. As the Fool moves up out of our world, he encounters judgment and the call of learning, of acquiring wisdom and strength. And he's heard that call before, and he now moves in to the same Sephira, and where he met strength last time, which was a woman subduing a lion, not killing a lion, subduing it. And this was not an act of kindness, this was an act of expediency. As the Fool moves into the realm where he learns strength, he finds it's a little different. It doesn't radiate the kind of strength we're used to. Again, that nakedness, the sign of innocence. The sunflowers, the golden sun, this is a sign of such complete strength that no bravado, threats, or warning are necessary. And in this space, the Fool learns that people who brag about their strength are not secure in their strength. The Fool now will move across, and last time he had gained strength, and he now works for the balance of his imagination, his mind, and his body, everything working together. We have to remember the second tree is the knowledge of good and evil. We see things not in a truer light, not in a better light, but in a different light. And as we move across what was that wonderful space of the dandy, the charioteer, who linked the Sphinx together and had wisdom and mobility all in one, we see this has changed, and it has become the Moon card. In the Moon card, the beasts are released. They are no longer linked together. They have reverted to a dog and a wolf howling at a moon, as if the light of the moon came from the moon itself. And of course it doesn't. It's a reflection of the sun. And these animals howl at the reflection, mistaking it for something else, for a power that it really doesn't possess. The Moon card is a card of what happens when your imagination takes hold of you and doesn't listen to your intellect. It is a card of mental illness, emotional disturbance. It is a card that you've been pulled to one side or another, and you are no longer in balance. The Fool treats that card as a learning experience, and he sees firsthand what happens when just intellect or just emotion become the cause of your actions. The Fool now moves across to that central SUBSRIBE, and before it was the Lovers. That's when he discovered love. Love was the most important thing. He considered it an aspect of the attractant laws like gravity. He accepted that love was a force. When he moves into Tiferet this time, the realm of beauty, instead of the Lovers, instead of this partnership of giving and receiving love, he sees a solitary person, naked again, symbolizing no pretense and innocence. And this person is giving life to the lands and the waters without discrimination and without any thought of reward. This is the highest form of love. And when we look at the two kinds of love, very often the partnership love is what people strive for. And indeed, it's a great thing. It makes the world go round. But if we want to look at love in its purest, truest form, it is somebody doing something for someone without any hope of recompense, without gaining fame, without virtue signaling. It is somebody doing something because they feel they have to, because they want to, because they can't imagine doing something else. The act of solitary giving is the highest form of love. The Fool now moves up into the realm where there was study before. And this study was at the hands of the Hierophant. And the Hierophant is a person, perhaps an institution of learning. It could be a church, it could be a university, it could be a college, it could be so many things where an accumulation of wisdom has been gathered. And there are people who can help you study that. On the last trip up the tree, the Fool encountered this place, this repository of knowledge. And at the time, he probably thought that all the answers were here. And that changes on the second trip rather harshly as the Fool moves into what was the place of learning. He finds the place has been destroyed by a lightning bolt from above. The destruction of this place, this institution, affects royalty and those who claim divinity equally. The message here is one of the more complex messages, but I think most people can relate to it. People who are seeking knowledge and understanding and truth will have trouble finding it within a single system, because a system builds up defenses, rules, borderlines, and boundaries, and over time prevents itself from acquiring new wisdom. Although the places of learning are important, they're necessary, no one place has all the answers, and you will have to leave the dogma of that place in order to increase your understanding and wisdom. There's another complicated lesson as he moves across from the learning institution that we found does not stand up over the long term. He moves into what was the benevolent king, the emperor. This person attracted people, unified people. It brought security to lands that were full of unrest before. And as the Fool moves into this place, expecting to find the benevolent king, who of course he adores just like everybody else, he finds his friend, the benevolent king, is not quite the same. He might have seen clues to that. He might have seen, instead of the king going about his duties, he might now see statues and portraits of the king. It's as if being a king is no longer a vehicle for change, but being a king has become the thing itself. And as the fool moves into what was the palace of the emperor, he finds that the emperor has changed and he's become the devil. We've mentioned before, this is not the Christian devil. This is not a great godlike power. This is somebody who has become bedeviled. And this is about something that humans weren't meant to endure for too long, and that is unquestioned adoration and following. It does something to us, and it mixes us up a lot. We start to believe what our fans are saying. That belief inflames our own desires, and it makes people worship us more, which again inflames our desires, and it goes around and around. At this point, the fool realizes that the emperor has been adored for so long that now adoration is his goal. He can't live without it. It's like becoming addicted to a substance. The message here that the fool would learn is that if you are in a position of leadership, don't try for that absolute kind of leadership. Don't advertise, don't go after fame. These things will pollute you and change you. If you can do things from backstage or behind the scenes, you won't get this kind of corrupting adoration. The fool now moves into the upper realms, and he is going to the place where before he saw the empress, the creator, the life giver, the person who changes things into life forms. And he finds temperance. These two cards are mirrors of each other. They both have to do with transforming ordinary stuff and producing something extraordinary. In a sense, temperance is like the old alchemists who could change the nature of one metal into the nature of another, lead into gold, that kind of thing. The fool learns about, it's not just the different things that are available or manifest now, it is the combination of these things that can produce so much more. We talked a bit about the next Sephra. This is the Sephra where number 2. In the first case, the magician had all the ideas of everything. When the high priestess got hold of these ideas, he or she produced all of them, in actuality, made them manifest in our world. As the fool moves to the top of the second tree, he enters this realm where on the first journey, everything was made real, the universe got its universal laws, and things weren't only in potential anymore. They actually existed. It's the beginning of our balance of mercy and severity. It is the beginning of all the chemical reactions that we see and all the cosmic interactions that we're aware of. A card that showed the change from immaterial to material, that same realm, is in the Death card, card number 13. And the reason for this is that originally the number 2 card was the beginning of life, the beginning of actuality. what the Fool learns at the almost the very top of the second tree is that death is not an end to life. It is a component of life. And that's something we just don't understand right now. We've been unable to synthesize life. All we know right now is that life can only emerge from something that was once alive. And that's what the death card symbolizes. It's that idea that life exists in a circle and that death is the end of one kind and the beginning to another. The death card that we don't understand might be so important that to remove dying or death might be to limit life itself. Finally, the Fool emerges into the very top Sephira. That's the place that was the magician. Although everything was just in his imagination, he had everything. He had every idea. He had every concept already there. As the Fool enters this great chamber of this magnificent entity, rather than seeing the magician, he sees the hangman. About his head, there's still that aura. He's still brilliant, but he's just not recognized. Or perhaps he is recognized, and through that recognition, he's become feared or doubted. The lesson here that the Fool learns is that it's not enough to have the answers, to have the ability. You have to also be recognized and supported by those around you. We've linked the hangman before to Tesla, somebody who had all the answers, but because of some petty jealousy and business arrangements, he never reached the kind of fame and adoration that was his due. Those are the two journeys through the two trees. They're told in a story, and it's from the Fool's perspective. As we work up the tree, we can see the lessons emerge. The first tree is fairly simple, straightforward. The second tree is nuanced. A brief recap, we can see as the Fool starts his first strip, he imaginative. If he didn't know the answers, he made them up. On the second journey, he has the wisdom to remove those clouds of illusion. What the Fool thought was the hermit giving advice just to him, he learns on his second journey, that was judgment. That was for everybody. The Fool himself is not special. We move to strength, where strength is the sun, and true strength does not have to explain, define, warn, or threaten. As the Fool sees the chariot, he learns in the second tree that the chariot only exists because of the link between mind and imagination. If that link is removed, there is a degradation. The beasts run free, and the person no longer has that balance and that mobility. We've seen that love can be between two people, and perhaps the highest expression of love is somebody giving with no hope of reward. We've seen that institutions can give us a lot of knowledge, and we've seen in the Tower that no institution has all the answers. We've seen that it's great to be a benevolent king, but too much worship will infect the minds of anybody. That's just the nature of the beast that is us. We need balance in our lives. We are not meant to be revered to that extent. We've seen that birth is like a form of alchemy. We've seen that life exists because of death. The two are intricately linked and we need one in order to have the other. And finally, it's not enough to be great. Greatness is often not recognized in its own time. Those are the two journeys. As you understand these two journeys, the cards become like personalities, little vignettes for you. And we don't need to have jot notes and memory clues and that type of a thing, because this is more of an understanding of the cards than just a memorization of the cards.
Just wanted to elaborate on the fact that we're not meant to be overly adored or worshipped, if you will, because the ego is easily corrupted.
I think that must be what it is. And we see that with movie stars and maybe famous singers who just reach such fame so quickly that they just can't internalize it.
Well, especially the young. That it's very sad when
Yeah.
you see younger people, because they haven't had enough experience to be able to be level-headed.
Yep, for sure. Well, shall we move into the questions?
I heard someone who studies Kabbalah say that it was forbidden to learn the Tree of Knowledge until you were at least 40 years of age. Is this true?
Yes and no. In the Kabbalistic sense, the word forbidden doesn't mean you are not allowed to. It means it will not serve you. Essentially, forbidden just means confusing. If you taught the second tree first and you taught somebody all institutions fail to provide the whole picture, you might have a person say, well, then I'm not going to spend any time in institutions. That would be wrong, because then you wouldn't have the historic knowledge that institutions provide. Forbidden means confusing, and in this sense, it just means you will have greater understanding by doing it in a certain order.
And forbidden means not able to. It's just beyond you.
You're right. I forgot now. Yeah, that you just don't even have the capacity.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the wisdom was closed to most up until 1995, at which point it was determined that man's ego had gotten to the point where we needed to share the load, that
Yeah.
it could be revealed, and now it's open to everybody.
Yeah, and before 1995, it was really just open to initiates who have been brought into the club, so to speak.
Why are the Fool's journeys so important?
The two journeys of the Fool teaches the meanings of all the 22 major arcana cards in the form of two stories. This doesn't have to be a system based on memorization. With memorization, there can be confusion and a tendency to forget. By learning the tarot cards as part of a connected story, there is a greater understanding and there's less of a reliance on memory.
I've tried having my fortune predicted in several different ways, and I always have a different future predicted. I've tried having my tea leaves read. Someone did a very complicated horoscope for me. One fortune teller used strange dice, another used a deck of tarot cards I've never heard of. What do you think is the best and most accurate method of fortune telling?
This question does come up quite a lot, and the question itself doesn't make sense because there is no accurate form of fortune telling. Essentially, fortune telling is a game we play, but it's not a meaningless or an empty game. By tapping into our subconscious, which the cards enable us to do, we may discover some insights. All fortune telling creates a possible future for you. One possible future. It's one future out of potentially millions of futures. Fortune tellers make you think, and they give you ideas, and they sometimes present you warnings. but the idea of it being accurate doesn't apply. If I gave the same person 2 back-to-back readings, they would most likely be different. It's just the way the cards work. They'd fall differently. And in that case, I would be giving the person 2 possible futures. Just because a future is created by the use of cards doesn't mean that there's any power to that future. It's just one random future that probably won't happen. We can't predict the future because it hasn't been created yet. Oh, Joss is giving me one of those looks, but maybe that's a rabbit hole.
Well, I think that Kabbalistically speaking, the future is there in potential. We just haven't gotten there yet, and there would be people that can tap into that, not consistently, but yeah, it's out there. We just haven't lived it yet, but it's there in potential.
I know these are mysteries. Well, that's it for today. We've covered the 2 trips up the 2 trees. To me, this is a great way of introducing tarot cards to somebody because it gives them a wealth of information not dependent on memorization. And I think it's interesting to people. It gives them knowledge, and it perhaps demystifies it a little bit. Some people have some preconceptions about tarot cards, but we find them useful and instructive. And that's it for today. We'll be starting a new series next week. I think it'll be the 4x4 series, where we'll look into each one of 4 cards by their number, starting with the aces and moving up to the kings. We'll look at 4 cards at a time and connect the 4 ones to the 1 spot on the tree. The 4 twos are connected to the 2 spot on the trees, and so on. And we'll work our way through those. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now, and see you next week.